Bear down.
So yesterday, the performances at the NFL Combine by the wide receivers and the running backs, but especially the wide receivers, were historic to say the least. And it leaves the Bears and Ryan Poles, who have two top 10 picks. Of course, everyone knows the number one overall pick being one of them, leaves Ryan Poles and the Bears in what is at the same time a tough decision and the best position to be in this draft and offseason in the NFL. So we're going to discuss some of the rumors, some of the options I think the Bears have, and the option I think they should take now that the performances have happened at the Combine, even though we still have offensive linemen left over to perform tomorrow. I'm just going to discuss where I think the Bears sit right now, what's true, what's not, and what Bears fans should really be paying attention to as we head into free agency period. But before we get started, smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to make sure you stay locked in to Draft Capital Sports, where we provide all the NFL draft news, NFL offseason news, trades, etc. for your 2024 NFL offseason. Now let's get back to the video. So first of all, let's talk about the receivers and the performances and the lack thereof as well. Now, Marvin Harrison Jr., he was at the Combine. He did interviews on the first day, met with some teams, did his measurements, and then he left because he said he'd rather just prepare for the upcoming season. I don't think he's even going to attend Ohio State's Pro Day at this time. He may just be there and not work out, but he plans on not really participating in that as well. Malik Nabers is going to be a full participant in LSU's Pro Day, but I think they might have made a mistake in not doing something at this year's Combine. Now, the interviews, I can care less about that. As far as the public interview with the media, that's just, to me, a big waste of time. But the team interviews are important. They both did that. But these performances, Rome Odunze right now, I think is the favorite in a lot of teams' eyes, or the number one receiver in a lot of teams' eyes. And that's because everything you see on tape, he proved at the Combine, as well as Xavier Worthy, as well as Brian Thomas Jr. is a freak and nobody's talking about it. His size and his speed and his agility and his athleticism is on some like Randy Moss type level. So these plethora of options, I think there were like 15 to 20 receivers whose relative athletic score, RAS score, was above 9.0. You had 8 guys run sub 4.4 40s. And of course, Xavier Worthy set the record at a 4.21, which I thought he could do. I did do a preview of who's going to break the Combine. Xavier Worthy was one of those people because he has track speed. And unlike most speedy wide receivers, he can catch the football and he can run routes. So there's so many options for the Bears. And I think that Ryan Poles has to think about, is Marvin Harrison Jr., who I still think is the number one receiver in the draft for sure, is he worth a possible trade back for 2 more first round picks, as well as, you know, one of those being a future first round pick, but as well as another pick in the top 40. This is something that the Bears, it's a good problem to have, but it is something that you have to decide. Now, the trade in Justin Fields rumors, I just don't believe, especially if the market is low for Justin Fields, that he's going to be traded. There's no reason to trade him. There's no reason to draft a quarterback at number 1. I'll get into the quarterbacks in a minute because they sucked at the Combine. I'm just going to be honest. If you can't throw accurate passes in shorts with no pass rush, it's not good. It's not an awesome performance. And the mid-tier, the Penixes, JJ McCarthy, Bo Nix, they were missing some layups, and you just shouldn't miss layups in that setting. You really shouldn't. You should do what CJ Stroud did last year, which is, it's practice. You got to shred all those. You should be hitting all those. I don't care if you're not throwing to your receivers. That's a lame excuse for a quarterback, especially throwing to one of the best wide receiver classes that I think we've seen in a long time. I think the quarterback class is what has been overhyped and overrated by the media. And starting with Caleb Williams on down. But there's so many quarterback needy teams that they really don't have a choice but to try to draft quarterback early in this draft and try to develop them. And that's what I think the Bears should still do. But I think they should draft a quarterback late day 2, day 3, and still keep Justin Fields, of course. And, you know, the quarterback that you draft is similar to the situation that Ryan Poles was in with Alex Smith and then the team drafting Patrick Mahomes. It's really the same situation. I mean, the Chiefs were 10-6 the year before they let Alex Smith walk and switched over to Patrick Mahomes as the starter. I could see the Bears doing the same thing next season if they don't feel like it's working out with Justin Fields. If his value isn't high right now, there's zero reason to trade him. And there's zero reason to use the first pick on a quarterback, because it's going to be about how you can develop the quarterback. That's why you hire a Shane Waldron. Okay, what you saw yesterday is that the quarterback from Kentucky was throwing better than anybody. And I know it's practice, and that's the point. Everybody should be throwing well in practice, and they weren't. And when you watch the tape, other than Michael Penix doesn't really have weak tape except for the championship game. Didn't look great. Again, that's against top-level competition, and that makes a difference. None of the quarterbacks other than Jayden Daniels played top-level competition on a consistent basis. And Jayden Daniels, not only did he not throw, he was scared to get weighed. So that makes me think he's having problems keeping his weight up where it probably needs to be durable in the NFL. And since the Bears already have a quarterback in Justin Fields, this makes their situation even better. But it's a tough decision to decide whether you bet on Marvin Harrison or you trade back even further in the draft, gain more draft capital in this draft and future drafts, and draft maybe a Rome Odunze or a Brian Thomas, a Adonai Mitchell, who also had a crazy combine, who has that size that you need. Devontae Walker redeemed himself from what was a lackluster Senior Bowl. You just have a lot of receivers. Xavier Leggett looks like a superstar. Ricky Pearsall. Troy Franklin even showed up well, but Troy Franklin just on tape, he doesn't really show very well. But Bub Means out of Pittsburgh also showed very well, has very good tape against good competition. There's a lot of wide receivers in this draft, and I think the Bears should position themselves to come up with at least 2 of them in the draft. I know Marvin Harrison Jr. is a beast, but there are some other beasts in this draft, and 2 is always better than 1 because injuries happen in the NFL, and that's just the way it goes. Also, I think the offensive linemen that we're going to be looking at are also going to test well tomorrow. So there's going to be a rush at the beginning of the draft for a lot of the offensive players, and that's what the Bears need the most. So here's what I think the Bears should do. And this is going to pain me to say it because I haven't wanted to do it in any draft scenario that I've made thus far. But I think this is where I'm leaning at now. And now I think they should trade back from 1 to 2 if they can, and then trade back again with Atlanta to 8 or Oakland to 13, whichever one offers the best offer. Then you should draft. Teams are not just going to draft wide receiver because they're awesome when they already have wide receivers on their team. If you look at the top 10 teams, the only teams that really need wide receiver is probably the Titans, the Arizona Cardinals, and the New York Giants, though all 3 of those teams also need offensive linemen, especially the Titans and the Giants. They need tackle extremely badly, so I don't see them taking wide receiver. Now, the Cardinals probably will take a wide receiver. The Chargers, I don't see them taking a wide receiver because Jim Harbaugh, they're not going to have a super duper passing offense. And they do have wide receivers on their team already. And with such a deep class, you don't want to waste a number 5 pick on a wide receiver. And I doubt very seriously Harbaugh would do that. Also, in watching the combine, the GM for the Cardinals, Monty Ossenfort, he went crazy when Dallas Turner ran his 40. And they caught him on camera. Really excited about that. So the Cardinals, because they have 2 first-round picks as well, whether they trade back up into the early first round or they decide to take Dallas Turner because they need pass rush as well with that number 4 pick. I mean, the wide receivers aren't terrible. Their problem last year is that Kyler Murray was injured, and when he came back, they were playing pretty well on offense. So the way things are lining up, I think the Bears' best move, and they would probably be able to get so much, even though it would cost them trading back out of the range, as things stand right now, to draft Marvin Harrison Jr. We need more than just one wide receiver. We need multiple offensive linemen. We need defensive end, and Jared Verse and Joe Alt. I'm sure tomorrow, Olufoshanu, those guys are going to test and put themselves into the early parts of the draft. So in order to get two of those players, whether we just draft where we are now, but then we need so much more in the back end, I think the Bears should trade back from number 1 for sure, and maybe trade back a little bit from number 9 as well for the 3 teams at the beginning, 11, 12, and 13, the Raiders, Broncos, and Vikings, who also all need quarterback. Jump back to one of those spots as well, as those teams will probably be racing to get a quarterback. They just have to have them, because on the back end of the draft, the Saints, the Seahawks, the Rams, the Steelers all need developmental prospects at quarterback. Dallas may even do it. And they can afford to draft a quarterback and sit them for a year or two to replace the quarterbacks that they probably don't want to pay anymore, or that they're going to be moving on from in a year or two. So though the Bears are in a prime position, they also just have some tough decisions to make as to how they want to build this thing out. Now, I'm really, really, really hoping that Ryan Poles doesn't sell anything cheap. Don't sell anything cheap. Don't trade Justin Fields. Because right now teams are going to play hardball with the Bears. I'm pretty sure most GMs and front offices are jealous of their position, and they're going to try not to overpay like the Panthers, like they feel the Panthers did last year. But unfortunately for them, a lot of the organizations are in bad situations. They have new coaches, new coaching staffs, and they don't have a quarterback. So let me know what you think in the comments below. What did you think of the performances of the wide receivers yesterday at the Combine? What was your favorite performance? Who's your favorite sleeper wide receiver besides Marvin Harrison Jr.? Do you like Rome Odunze, Brian Thomas Jr.? Let me know in the comments below. Hit the like button, hit that share button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell. As always, thank you so much for watching Draft Capital Sports. Thank you for liking, sharing, and subscribing to the video and to the channel. And we out. Peace.